Tubeless tyres are crap. That is what a lot of people say. I, however, strongly disagree with that. But there are some aspects of tubeless tyres which I and lots of other people find particularly frustrating. So if you're someone that hasn't made the switch from inner tubes to tubeless tyres, you might be unaware of these things. So that is what this video is going to go through and explain for you. Tubeless tyres are just like lots of other bits of bike tech. You need to weigh up the pros and the cons relative to your needs. But in terms of tubeless tyres, what are the advantages that we're always banging on about? Well, you can run your tyres at a lower pressure, which means you have more comfort, more grip. They have the ability to seal up some punctures, and in some cases, they can be faster than an inner tube tyre too. However, there are plenty of things which I find annoying about tubeless tyres, and they really grind my gears and at times make me wish I could go back to using inner tubes and clincher tyres all the time. And just full disclosure here, I actually use both tubeless tyres and inner tubes across lots of different bike setups. So the first thing we're going to discuss is the messy initial setup. Setting up tubeless tyres can be a messy job, especially the first couple of times you do it. You're going to end up with sealant all over your hands, all over the floor, all over your wheels, and all over your tyres, and perhaps even all over your clothes. Now, I have been setting up tubeless tyres for best part of around 20 years, and even I still make a mess sometimes. But just like anything, practice makes perfect, and over time, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. There are, however, a couple of little tools, such as this, which help minimize the mess that you make. This is a tubeless sealant injector, and it allows you to put that sealant directly through the valve to save making a mess. But do bear in mind, there are also sealants like this, which aren't able to be injected through the valve core using a tool such as this, because they'll block up the valve. But as always, whatever way you want to look at it, using an inner tube is going to be much, much cleaner. The most common frustration that I have with a tubeless tyre setup are blocked up valves. Now, modern sealants are pretty high-tech and clever, but even so, they can't tell the difference between a puncture and the valve core, which means every time you adjust your tyre pressures, monitor them or pump up your tyres, and you get that small little hiss of air, that means a little bit of sealant is getting squirted out of the valve at the same time as the air. And then over time, that sealant is going to build up and dry. It's going to not only clog the valve stem itself, but it's also going to clog up the valve core. Now, the stems can be cleaned out with a screwdriver by just simply poking it through and pushing all of the dried up sealant out. However, the individual valve cores are pretty much impossible to clean out, and if they get blocked, well, you're going to have to just replace them. Now, granted, a valve core is only going to cost a few pennies, but it is an annoying little thing that you need to do now and again. Tubeless tyres do have the ability to seal up punctures. That is a fact, but what isn't true is that they are 100% puncture proof. Now, in my experience, tubeless tyres will seal up the punctures maybe 60 to 70% of the time, which is still really impressive compared to, say, an inner tube, which has zero puncture sealing abilities. However, in my experience, people who are perhaps not familiar with tubeless technology will assume that it will fix any kind of puncture, which is not true. So you need to be prepared and make sure you have something like a tubeless tyre plug, a pump, a tyre lever, or an inner tube as a backup failsafe. Tubeless tyres are typically more expensive than the non-tubeless version of the same tyre. It's going to, of course, vary between different brands to brands, but you can expect the difference to be in the region of 15 to 25 pounds, euros, or dollars per tyre, which is a reasonable amount. Then add into the mix that you've got to pay for some tubeless sealant. You've also got to buy some tubeless valves and perhaps some rim tape as well. Add all of those things together, and going from an inner tube and standard tyre setup to a tubeless tyre setup could cost quite a lot more money. And then finally, one of the biggest issues with tubeless tyres is if you're at the roadside stuck with a puncture that won't seal up with the sealant that's already inside of your tyre. What on earth do you do? Well, you've got a couple of options. You either pump it up and hope that it seals up, you add more sealant in and pump it up, or you try and use something like this, which is a tubeless tyre plug. Now, these are all useful solutions, and we have videos specifically explaining how to use those things. But what if that stuff still doesn't work? What if all of that stuff fails and you need to have the fail safe? Well, that is where your inner tube comes into it. That way you need to take the tyre off of the rim, clean out all of the old sealant, discard of it, hope that it's biodegradable, which most of them actually are, check the inside of the tyre for any previous puncture sites, clean out any thorns and nails that may well be in there, put your inner tube into your tyre, put your tyre back on the rim, pump it up, and away you go. I mean, when you say it like that, it does seem like a huge pain in the arse, but I would say it's a small price to pay to have the advantages of using a tubeless setup for the majority of the time. And I guess whatever way you want to look at it, whether you're using tubeless or perhaps an inner tube setup, if all else fails, you've still got to go through the process of installing an inner tube and changing that and then pumping it up. The big difference comes from the fact that a tubeless setup is a little bit more involved and messy to get to that situation, which for some people is a real big issue and could perhaps leave you stuck at the roadside needing help. So there you go, those are my 5 annoying things about tubeless tyres, which you perhaps didn't initially know about. And if you have any experience and thoughts on tubeless tyres yourself, let me know in the comments section down below, because I'm really keen to hear those. And as always, if you want to support our channel and support what we do, subscribe to GCN Tech to see more videos just like this. Right, I'm out of here. See you later.